friends, Gary Goodhue here with the power of attunement. This episode is going to be devoted to the one law. The one law is a fundamental teaching in all of Emissary teachings. It is essential for the understanding of attunement, and it is, as I like to call it, a vibrational law. That is, it deals in vibration, it deals in energy, it deals in consciousness and creation. It is a law of creation. In fact, it is one of the overriding primary laws within creation. It's also known as the universal law of cause and effect. And perhaps you've heard of that law. It's something that operates all throughout the universe. It is a universal law because it applies to everyone, everywhere, regardless of any factor, including time and place. It works all the time, whether you realize it or not, whether you understand how it works or not, whether you believe in it or not. It's always working. So this one law is essentially 2 steps, but it's also 5 steps. And it goes even deeper than the law of cause and effect, I believe, because it explains a law of creation. And I would call that becoming. How we become something is defined by the operation of the one law. So the first 2 steps of the one law is radiation and response. Essentially, if we put this inside of the context of cause and effect, we can see that's the very similar principle, where there is something out there that exerts a causal force. A causal force is exerted, and then in response, in return, there is an effect that manifests because of that cause. And so there is a energetic radiation of energy, and then there is a response to that energy. One of the ways that we can understand this principle at play is within the physical realm with something that is called action and reaction. And this goes into Newtonian physics as an understanding or worldview, where there is some physical mass or object that exerts a force. So there's an action that happens. And that exertion then causes a reaction inside of another object or mass. Of course, that reaction then becomes a new action that can then exert itself and cause another reaction. So the same thing is true all the way through, where a cause can stimulates an effect, and then that effect can become a new cause that then leads to another effect. This is the unfolding of things over time that we call creation. However, radiation and response, as defined inside of the one law, is special because it works at an energetic level. It describes to us the cause and effect of becoming or unfolding over time within vibrational principles. So to understand vibration, I want to lay out a couple factors, starting with the primary teaching that we use today inside of the emissaries, which is called the sun cross. So imagine a circle, and within that circle, there is a horizontal line and a vertical line. So where those 2 lines meet on the ends of the circle, there are 4 different points. And inside of those 4 points, we have attributed certain dimensions or capacities of the human experience. There is the spiritual dimension, this presence of being that we relate to, that we know ourselves as. We know that we exist and that we are connected to a higher reality, to whatever degree we're aware of it. We also have an emotional realm, which is like our heart space. It's where we experience our feelings, where our emotions come into play. We also have a mental realm, which is our mind, our conscious mind, our ability to think to use logic and reasoning, to do problem solving and critical thinking, to come into understanding and have comprehension. And then we also have a physical realm exhibited by our body. Our body is made up of material substance, of the earth, of the dust. And so we have this body so that we can use it to maneuver through life, so that we can interact with other material things in this world, including other people and other bodies. These 4 dimensions of ourself are universal. Every one of us has them. We all have a body, a mind, a heart, and a spirit, right? However, these things line up in a particular order. Spirit being at the top, our spiritual dimension, and then our emotional dimension, our mental dimension, and our physical dimension. These are the different capacities or parts of ourself that we all share. And each one of these, in this order, has a higher frequency, a higher vibration, or another way to say it is a higher level of causality. So all of these operate at cause. I can, in my physical body, do an action, and that action has some causal force to it, and it will produce some type of effect inside of my world. But it's not the only thing that I have available to me. I also have a mind that has the ability to think and to hold thoughts, to focus my attention on a thought, and to put that thought clearly in the center of my mind where I give it focus and attention. This has a higher causal reality, or a higher frequency, a higher vibration than just physical action. That's why there's teachings out there around creative visualization and the power of thought. There are scientific studies about athletes who actually do their physical exercises and go through the motions of their sport activity simply in mind, just by visualizing it inside of their mind with thought. And these studies show that those people who have done visualization have just as much or more muscle and skill development, more muscle memory and body response as those that have actually been doing the physical action itself. So our thoughts do operate at a more causal level, higher vibration than just our actions alone. Now, that's not to say that our actions aren't important. They're hugely important. They're one of the 4 main capacities of who we are. They're just not the most causal capacity that we have. Our mental is a little bit higher vibration, a little more causal. Our emotions are even a little bit of a higher vibration and even more causal. And that's why there's teachings out there like The Secret or the Law of Attraction, which is actually a sub-law underneath of the one law. And these teachings simply talk about how we have energy and our emotions dictate our vibration that we're putting out into the world. And so depending on the emotional frequency that we are emitting out into creation, things are attracted to us that actually have a matching frequency. And so if we are putting out a lot of joyous and positive emotions, then we'll start to reflect back inside of our experience. Things will show up that reflect that joy and positivity. The same thing is true when we're really upset or angry. We're putting out a particular emotion, and that tends to attract certain situations and things that only enhance and sort of further fuel those negative emotions. So that's a teaching. Our emotions, our energy, how we work that is more causal than the ones before it. But at an even more causal level, at the highest vibration possible, is our spiritual dimension, the reality of who we are. Now, at the highest level, that is the I am presence. That is the wonderful one within. It is the Father within. It is our own higher self. However, here, as a dimension of ourself, it is our identity. It is the sense of being, of who we know ourselves to be. And depending upon our identity, this has an even more causal level, because that is dictating all the rest of the other systems. How we see ourselves, how we identify, and how we know ourselves is shaping not only the emotions that we feel and the thoughts that we think and the actions that we take, it's shaping all of our expression or communication to the outer world of who we are. Now, when we go even higher into that, into breaching the spiritual dimension of reality and these higher qualities of love, truth, and life that exist and are always available to each of us, that goes into even higher vibration and higher levels of causality. Now, what is causality? Causality is essentially power. It is creative power. It is the power to create an effect, to create an experience. And so, if we imagine a vibrational scale, that at the very bottom is the heaviest vibrations, the most dense vibrations, then at this level, this is where the physical world is, and this is where we find matter and material things, which have a very dense vibration. And as we move up this vibrational scale, the vibrations become lighter and lighter, which can mean less heavy as well as full of light. But they become finer and finer frequencies, or what we might understand as more ethereal frequencies. So we move through levels of mind and levels of energy and levels of spirit. And this is in some way representative of a dimensional scale. So you can easily say that each one of us are multidimensional beings, because we are. So inside of this vibrational scale, you can see how at the very top is very fine frequencies, very light vibration. And that is up in the spiritual realm. And down here at the bottom, we have very dense vibrations, very thick frequencies. And that's the material world that we find ourselves living in here on Earth, in the third dimensional realm. Each one of these four capacities of who we are, physical, mental, which is the conscious mind, the emotional, which is the heart, and the spiritual, which is our presence of being, they each have their own vibrational scale. It's really interesting. So in the bottom one, in the physical dimension of things, the vibrational scale, again, imagining that it goes from top to bottom, at the top, in the highest vibrations, we find life, health, vitality. At the lowest vibrations, we find death, disease, and disintegration. In the mental realm, at the highest realms of the vibrational scale present there, we find truth, clarity, and understanding. And at the lower end of that scale, we find illusion, confusion, and misunderstanding. Inside of our emotional heart realm, there is a vibrational scale. At the top of it, we find love, joy, excitement. At the bottom of it, we find hate, fear, sense of separation. The same thing is true inside of our spiritual dimension realm, which at the highest height of that scale, we find I am presence, higher self, individuated aspect of God being. And so our identity is one of knowing the divine nature of who we are as incarnating into a human body. And at the lowest end of this scale is having an identity of a small, insignificant person, powerless inside of this great expanse of the world and the universe. We're just this small little person that is not really able to make much of a difference. And therefore, things are happening to us more instead of us actually being a causal force inside of our world. So you can see these different vibrational scales all the way through. And the law of the one law in the two steps of radiation and response says that there are energies, and everything within creation has an energy frequency that it's emitting based upon its vibration. And to the degree that we are responding to that vibration, whatever it is, we are actually bringing that into us. And that takes us to the 5-step process of the one law, which is radiation, response, attraction, union, and unified radiation. So as we respond to any one of these energy frequencies, these vibrations that are found through all of those scales, and there are tons of them all in this world, everybody's carrying their own vibration. As we respond to that, we begin to go through a process of attracting or coming into a vibrational alignment or harmony of frequency with that vibration until there is a point of union where we are existing at the same vibration that we are responding to. At that point, we then become the unified radiation of that vibration. So here's a couple examples. Say you're around someone and they are happy. They're ecstatic. Like something amazing is going on for that person in their experience, and they are just emanating joy. You can't knock them down. They can do no wrong. They're just like a bright light. The more time that you spend with them, the more that you respond to them, the more likely you're going to begin to feel uplifted yourself just by being in their presence. And after enough time, you become so infused with the positive energies that that person is holding and radiating that you take that energy with you out into the world. So when you leave their presence, you find that you are still very happy. You're uplifted. You have come into a higher vibration because of being around them. And now you are the one that is radiating that higher vibration out into your world. The same thing is true on the other end of the scale. When we come across someone who is upset, they are holding some sort of anger or frustration towards something that's going on inside of their experience. And perhaps they're complaining, or they're just, spewing negativity all over the place. We experience that. We feel that vibrational radiation. And the more that we are around that person, that we interact with that person, that we give them our attention, our energy, our response, the more that we begin to go into an attraction and our vibration drops into a matching frequency with theirs. There's a union, not with that person, but with the vibration that they're holding, that they're radiating. And then when we leave their presence, we find that we're a little more upset. We're a little more cynical. We're a little more easily triggered by all of the things of the world because we've lowered our vibration. Now, if that's all the teachings were, then that would be kind of disappointing, because that means that all we are left to do is respond to the different things of the world. And if it's a high vibration, we're lifted up. And if it's a low vibration, we're brought down. And unfortunately, there's a lot of things in this world that are radiating a low vibration. So that's a challenge. However, the challenge is our choice in what it is that we're responding to. See, we have a choice of what we respond to. We have a choice of what we are giving our attention and our energy to. We have a choice of what direction we're facing. We have a choice around what we're looking at, what we're listening to, what we're engaging with, what we're interacting with, what we are allowing into our sphere, what we are allowing into our consciousness, what we are responding to. And that doesn't mean that if someone is upset, then you might not take a moment to listen to them, to give them some understanding and some compassion, and to care for them. It just means that you don't have to go down and join them inside of their low place. You can hold a higher vibration and actually invite them to come up to you. And that brings us to the higher dimensions of the teachings of the one law, because we have that vibrational scale, and at the top of the vibrational scale, the highest vibration is spirit. It is that connection with the eternal reality of love that exists within each of us. It is the knowing of the identity of the being of love that we are. And as we respond, as we give our attention to that, as we go within, maybe closing the eyes, going into the darkness of our own inner landscape, going into our closet, we are cutting off all of our connections with all the other things around us. We come into a place of stillness. And as we do that, something opens up in our awareness. Underneath of all of the busy thinking, all of the concern about what happens to us in the world, all of our flashing memories of the things that have recently happened, the conversations we've had, that thing somebody said to us, all of our imaginations of that thing we want to say to somebody, that potential conversation, how something could end up playing out, all that sort of drifts away inside of stillness. And what we find underneath the surface of that is the truth of being, the reality of who we are, our connection to spirit. As we respond to that, as we face it, as we look at it, we give it our attention, we listen to it, we come into this communication and interaction with that dimension within ourselves. Our vibration is naturally being lifted. It can't help it. It's the one law. We respond to it, we are coming into a place of attraction. Our vibration is raising to come into a harmonic frequency that is resonant with that vibration. And as we come into a union with it, then we get to radiate the same vibration that is within us. We become the unified radiation of that vibration, and spirit is moving through us because of our response. Now, here's the thing. Like I said, spirit exists at some of the highest causal levels. Therefore, the strength of that vibration is stronger than the strength of the vibration of fear, of anger, of the illusion of separation, and all of the lower vibrational things that we could put out into the world or that are done to others in the world, that exist in the world, that are there constantly trying to steal our attention, to get us to respond to it. If we are in response to the highest dimensions of ourself, then we are existing at a higher vibration. And when we encounter the things in the world that are our lower vibration, it is much more difficult for us to get caught in giving our response to that, because we're already giving our response to the truth of who we really are, the reality of love, the reality of life, the reality of truth. And so at the higher vibration, We actually become a force, a unified radiation force on behalf of spirit that is inviting everything else around us to come into that higher vibration. We call that a blessing, lifting, inviting things up into a higher vibration. We call that healing, as things of the lower vibration of death and disease and disintegration begin to come into wholeness. That is healing. That is what we know of. That is the essence of attunement, is attuning with the highest dimensions of who we are, attuning with spiritual cause, with the God force, and letting that raise our vibration. As it raises our vibration, it raises our consciousness. It affects our mind. It raises our health and vitality. And we get to then be that higher vibration in relationship to the rest of the world, inviting it to rise up, to come and meet us, to come into a greater reality of what is true and real. See, even though there are many horrific and horrible things in this world, I believe those things are all illusions. They're not true and real. They're not lasting. They may be showing up. They may be happening. They may even be inside my personal sphere of experience and impacting me. But I know the reality of love. I know the truth of life, and that the forces of the universe that exist in the higher dimensions of God's light and love are always working to help bring everything into a higher reality of knowing itself as the truth of itself. This is the ascension process that is happening all around us, that you might have heard about if you're inside of certain consciousness circles or spirituality circles. There is something happening in the body of humanity where we are all rising up. It's happening because more individuals are choosing to respond to that dimension of spiritual reality within ourselves. This is the Great Awakening. And as more and more individuals do that, as each one of us do that inside of ourselves, giving our response to the wonderful one within, the individuated God self that lives within each of us, then we are lifting the collective. We're lifting the whole. And that is our mission. That is being an emissary of divine light, here on behalf of, in representation of, not just the concept or the idea, but the living expression. See, we know what we express. And so as we let this divine higher reality move through our capacities, infusing our identity of who we are, moving through our heart as an expression of love, as a blessing, moving through our mind as clarity and understanding and inspiration, moving through our body as vigor and vitality and strength, then we know ourselves as that, because that is how we express ourselves into the world. And we're offering then others the opportunity to have a point, a radiation point, which then they can respond to. And as they're responding to us as a representation of the divine force within themselves, they become lifted. Not just in the way that we are lifted because we're around somebody who's really happy, but in the way of opening up this connection to their own divine source within themselves. Because that is what brings the healing. That is what brings the life, the love, and the truth. That is what connects us with these higher absolute dimensional realities of spirit. And that connection is within each one of us. This is part of the essence of attunement. As servers, we are in the place of bringing that higher reality through our own capacities and letting it move through in a radiation field that invites everything else up to come up into a higher dimensional reality, into a higher vibration, into a higher consciousness. And this is how we serve. This is the beauty of this technology called the One Law. It's according to our response, so shall it be established unto you. What is it established? Well, that depends on what we're responding to. Where is it established? Inside of our experience, inside of our life, inside of our capacities, inside of our thoughts, our mind, inside of our hearts, our emotions, inside of our body. We know the difference inside of ourself, whether we are feeling healthy and strong or whether we're feeling weak and diseased. We know whether we're feeling clear and competent or whether we're feeling confused and unsure. We know whether we're feeling loving and joyous or whether we're feeling sad and disconnected. We know whether we are feeling like we are the top of the world, we are identified with the highest potential of who we are, or whether we're feeling really low and we're identified with some smallness that is not the truth of who we are, but is an illusion. And we can live out of it if we want. We can live out of any measure of all of those vibrational realms. We have free choice. We have free will. And so much of that, where we choose to exist, depends on what we radiate. But what we choose to respond to will also help determine what we radiate. They say that a person you can tell the character of a person by the 5 people that they hang out with the most. And so if you look at the 5 people that you hang out with the most and the character of those people, that can actually give you some clue about the character of that person. This is why. It's the One Law, because as we're responding to the radiation of others, we end up coming into a union or a vibrational match. And then we begin to take on that expression ourselves and radiate that out into our world. So the highest dimension of this teaching and the big takeaway is that we have a spiritual dimension. We have a connection to God reality. And the more that we give that our attention, the more that we give that our energy, the more that we give that our love response, the more that we look at it, the more that we listen to it, the more that we make time to spend in that place of connection deep within ourselves, well, the more that we begin to take on that vibration and the more that we begin to represent that vibration out into the world. So may it be. So may it be for you. So may it be for me. So may it be for all of humanity. Because every individual that does that is lifting the collective whole. I hope that this has made sense for you. I hope that you're able to take this teaching and this understanding and apply it to many different areas of your life, because it is universal. Wherever you apply it, it will work. Thanks for being with me here. I just want to say that if you have liked this episode, go ahead and click the like button. Go ahead and share it on your social media platform. We want to get these teachings out to the world so that we can help as many people as possible. Leave a comment. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your wisdom. We know what we express. So express ourselves everywhere and express right here on this channel. Help us get out to the world. I just want to leave you with this blessing. May you attune to the highest, maintain a vibration of love, and uplift your world by blessing all. Until the next time.